was strongly considering putting these in my top 5 boots of the year. They're kind of teetering. It's such tough competition this year. However, what happened was Skechers then dropped these. Now, this has basically changed my mind. This has changed everything. And it's not because these are bright pink and I kind of love them. It's because this is the AG outsole. And I think, honestly, this might have just confirmed that the SKX2 is going in the top 5 boots of the year for 2025. Let's start with just the stud pattern. If we compare them side by side, of course, we've got more studs. They're all conical. No messing around from Skechers here. No cheeky blades here or there. They've gone conical all the way through, and I absolutely love that. There is a lot of studs. They are not excessively long. This is a fantastic AG stud pattern, especially when we can compare it to this, which is perfectly acceptable. There's nothing wrong with it at all, but it's definitely not a boot that I have recommended for AG, particularly because of the stud pressure you can generate around these points just here. So we now have a great AG option, and not only that, this is actually a pretty good FG AG option. If you have a pitch that is pretty nice, so like not too soft, too wet, you could definitely rock these on both pitches, and I think that is fantastic because then you only really need to buy one boot instead of buying two, and I would much prefer to get the AG rather than the FG if I'm going to try and use them on both surfaces. Now this doesn't really matter to me, but we are going to weigh them because I think a lot of people are going to be interested, because the SKX2 in AG comes in at 174 grams. For example, let's grab a Mercurial Vapor. This is the Vapor 16 Elite, same size, FG, coming in at 171 grams. There's only 3 grams difference between Nike's Elite Level Speed Boot and the Skechers SKX2 AG. Now, hold on. Let's just reset that. And then if we throw on the FG model, that's coming in at 214 grams. There is a giant difference between the two. Now for me, it doesn't really matter. You pick whichever one you need for the surface, but if weight is a big concern of yours, the AG model is significantly lighter. Now the reason it's lighter is because we have this one piece outsole construction. This here, and then when we open this up, hold on, let's take the insole out. There it is. You have basically a moccasin stitch style in the bottom of the boot, whereas on this, because what you have essentially is a split sole design, you have a much stiffer board on the inside, this plastic here, which means that the boot itself can have this whole element, all this kind of pods on the outside, but that adds weight. What it does do is give you a lot more contact area around this area here, because the boot can wrap underneath, and you can see how that adjusts the shape here. You can see how this pushes up and around, where this is a little bit flatter. You can see the change that that makes. Now that may suit your foot type, it may not, but it does mean that you've got two options, and it does mean that this one is an awful lot lighter. Now for me, I think that the shape that you generate through the midfoot here is actually a lot nicer on the FG model, but I'm absolutely not complaining about what you get from the AG. And if you've got a flatter foot, AG all the way. Let's see if we have any other shape changes between the two boots, and there are a couple of small changes that do happen. So let's flip these upside down. This is probably going to be the best way for you to see it, and I do think that there is a little bit more width in the FG model up through the top of the boot. It just rounds off a little bit more, whereas the AG model is a tiny bit more pointed. So what you might think is that if you have that kind of wider foot, you want to go for the FG model to get that little bit of extra space. You can probably even see it side by side here. This is just a little more pointed than this. Now that is technically true that you might want the FG for that little bit of extra width. However, I also find that the AG runs ever so slightly longer. It's less than a quarter size, maybe an eighth of a size worth of extra length on the AG model, and that compensates for the width that we lack in the FG. Now, the more balanced option between the two, the better overall model, in my opinion, when it comes to the shape, the fit, everything like that, is the FG. And I think it shows that this particular boot was built for this outsole. We speak very frequently on the podcast about how it feels like sometimes boots are built by multiple different teams. Like one team builds the outsole, one team builds the upper, and they don't really connect or correspond with each other. That's not what the FG model feels like at all. This feels like one big unified package that actually works really well. Yes, they had the outsole, but they've built an upper package to suit that. With the AG, this absolutely works. I don't have a problem with it, but I don't think it suits quite as well as the FG model, despite being really, really good. Now, something that I do really want to get into with this AG model is the midfoot stability and the overall responsiveness. So, that is a very responsive AG plate with a very stable midfoot and heel. This is a very, very good outsole. It's very lightweight. You can feel that in hand, you can feel it on feet, but it's so stable. I am so impressed with this particular outsole. Now, if we compare that to the FG model, the FG is definitely more snappy, more responsive, and similar amount of stability. The only difference that I've found is that as you wear the FG, if you really start to maybe heat it up, for example, on an AG pitch, it does soften a little bit as you wear it. The whole thing kind of softens up. However, that doesn't happen with the AG. The AG seems to be able to retain its stiffness and its rigidity, its responsiveness, even on super hot AG pitches. So it's just well designed, and well done, Skechers. The uppers are exactly the same in terms of having this super soft, this material is just delightful. And then this cage structure, this slightly kind of waxy, sticky, it's not sticky, but it is slightly waxy upper feeling. So unbelievably nice. It beds in really, really well. And they both have those internal, that Hyperburst Pro insole with all of those grip dots on it. Let's get both out. So they've got like a grip dot, like a grip sock through the outsole and through the heel. They both have the phenomenal heel, a really well designed heel from Skechers, one of the best on the market. And I could argue that maybe on the AG model, the heel might be a little more pinched. It does feel like it anyway. Like, yeah, it even looks it if we put them side by side. You see how the FG model just widens out a little bit more. The AG model is a little bit more pinched, and that's just going to come down to the width of the outsoles here and here, and how they've shaped the boot slightly. They've just changed the look slightly. Now, none of these fit changes are going to make giant differences. They are going to adjust it, but neither one is going to make it so you can or can't wear the boot. I think these are phenomenal football boots, and I think the addition of a genuine AG option just makes these special. The fact that you can now get them at such an unbelievably light weight, the fact that you now have the option to wear them on FG and AG from one sole plate, the flexibility of the SKX2 now has reached a point where this is just a boot that you could use all the time. I think that you could have an FG, an SG, and an AG. You could have all of these. You could have two of these. These are a boot that could be your go-to in rotation, constantly have. The SKX2 has just solidified itself as one of my top 5 boots of the year, unless something crazy happens between now and early December. If you want to see my review of the FG boot, then do click on this video just here.